Aloha friends, welcome back once again to the Exotica Lounge. It's been a moment since I've been here. Apologize for that. Been working the old day job, but it's great to get back with you here in the lounge. I just realized my shirt has green flowers on it, and that doesn't really work with a green screen. Well, we're just going to deal with it for now. That's probably the least of our problems today. So, I've had a lot of stuff going on. I say my day job is playing other people's music. Not as much fun as Exotica, but it's given me some things to think about lately. I just wanted to kind of share some of those thoughts with you. I've got a few things that I want to go over. I'll probably split it up into different segments. Number one, because of course I tend to ramble, especially when I haven't done a lot of research on something and I'm just kind of talking off the cuff. I keep thinking I've got a quick topic and it ends up being an hour and a half long video. So I'll try to make this a little bit short. But thanks for sticking with me through all that. I'm on coffee tonight because it is 2:30 in the morning. That's a great time to get into the lounge, I do believe. So I do want to mention a couple things that are happening in the wide world. There's some great new music coming out. I know Tiki 7 have some, I think a couple of new releases, like a set of things coming out. Exotica have some new ones. I heard a couple tracks off of that, which is amazing, like new style Exotica, very cool. And also to check out on the YouTubes, the Tikiyaki Orchestra. He's got a series going on right now about Exotica music, some history, some albums, that kind of thing. And he's been in the game for a long, long time, so definitely check out their channel. He's been publishing a really good feed there. Also, Jamie Lynn Blasky, A Moment of Tiki. He's been doing a series, I think he calls it Tiki Your Ears Off. He's doing album reviews of some classic Exotica albums. Very well written, well researched, well presented material there. So definitely check those out. Lots of different things on his channel, but definitely he's got a series going on of Exotica music and surf music and all kinds of, the wider world of Tiki music, which is awesome. So definitely do check that out. Also, my good friends, the Manakooras, they've got a couple of singles coming out, I think this week. If you're, well, we'll see when I get this posted. Halloween week, what year is this? 2025. They've got a couple singles out on there. They're kind of local to me. They're down in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in Raleigh. It's about 3 hours away. And I added some sound effects to some of their tracks, so that's fun stuff for me. But yeah, lots of cool new stuff going on out there in the world. But I'm going to talk about some old stuff. Maybe not as cool, but maybe, I don't know. So I was on a concert playing classical music. I play orchestral music, and we were doing some Dvořák, which I don't think I mentioned him when I was talking about French Impressionists, because he's neither French nor Impressionist, but he's got some stuff that kind of fits into that same kind of vibe. So I do want to mention him because we were playing some of his music and it came up thinking about his connection, how he might fit into this wider world of, the European side of Exotica music. So going way back for me, I first came into contact with Dvořák's music when I was in high school. We actually did one of his pieces in our marching band. We had a marching band show of Russian classical music. So we played some Tchaikovsky, we played some Dvořák. There was other stuff, it was a long time ago. I can't remember what else was in there. But we played a melody from his Ninth Symphony, which is called From the New World. Sometimes it's just called the New World Symphony. And I just absolutely fell in love with the piece. It's a gorgeous piece of music. And you will find it if you have a classical radio station local to you. They're going to play it probably once a day or more. Our station, you may actually have the same station that we do. It's called the Classical Station, and they syndicate nationwide, at least, if not worldwide. So anytime they do a call-in show where they take requests, they're playing Dvořák 9. Anytime they do, every once in a while, they'll do like the top 25, classical music pieces, it's in the top 25. If they do a top 10, it's in the top 10. If they do a top 5, it's probably in the top 5. It's one of the most represented pieces in the classical canon. So this New World Symphony from the New World. Dvořák was a Czech composer. He actually came from the area known as Bohemia. So we were talking about all these, French impressionists that referred to themselves as Bohemians. He was an actual Bohemian, literally, where they kind of took that term and exotified it. But he was a literal Bohemian. So, we're looking at Eastern Europe. Again, we put him in with a Russian program. Cold War was still going on. We kind of said close enough. That's how old I am. So yeah, his music is very in that vein. And he did a lot of work with folk music of the areas that he was familiar with. He would take those folk themes and incorporate them into his music in a more classical kind of way. But utilizing that as kind of the raw material. So Dvořák came to America, and he actually taught here. They were trying to open a school and kind of establish an American identity for music, because at that time, we're talking 1800. When was he around? I got the old Wikipedia up here. Let's see. He was born 1841, died 1904. So we're looking around the same time period as the Impressionists that we were talking about earlier. Maybe a little earlier than them. But yeah, at this time, to be considered a legitimate musician in America, you went to Europe to study and then maybe came back. So they were trying to establish an American school and an American identity of music that could stand on its own with the same standing as European music. So he came here to try and do that. And he wrote a number of pieces that were inspired by his visit here. So from the New World, obviously. Well, maybe not so obviously, because to me, when I first came across this piece of music, we weren't given a lot of background on it. And Wikipedia that I'm looking at right now was not even a glimmer. This is very much pre-internet. So unless you went to a library and checked out a book on music history, which most of us were not going to do as, high school marching band kids, you would have no idea what's happening. So when I heard New World Symphony and I heard this gorgeous music, it didn't track as American to me at all. I thought New World was referencing some, utopian dream, post-industrialist, beautiful, everybody, lays in fields and watches clouds and land of milk and honey kind of thing. I thought he was trying to evoke this new world utopia that we could all maybe escape to someday. I didn't realize it was even a reference to the new world as in the Americas. Because the music, to me, when I hear it, it's like, man, that's Russian. That is it. And they say he was drawing from American music, not directly, that like he was trying to quote folk songs or some of that, but they say he would listen to American folk songs, African American spirituals, and maybe even some Native American music. And he wanted to incorporate that just as a feeling, just as a, I guess today we would say he was just vibing on it. He was just, it's giving America. But that, when I listened to it then, and even now, if I hadn't read that, I would never would that have crossed my mind. And there are a lot of discussions, that musicologists have looked at and trying to pick apart. Oh, maybe this came from this African American spiritual. Maybe this came from this field song. There's one that they say is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Personally, I'm not convinced. But yeah, it doesn't give America at all to me. It gives, this is Russian, this is Eastern European. So looking at this idea of Exotica, was he trying to create this new exotic space. I don't think he was trying to. I think he was trying to establish an American identity, but it ended up kind of being that. Like, maybe if you were from Eastern Europe and you listen to this music, you'd be like, oh, it sounds so American. But to Americans, really, no, that really doesn't. So it kind of falls into that same kind of area to me. And I am fully aware that he was doing this before Aaron Copland, where Copland really did establish this is what American music sounds like. And so now when we think, American classical music, you got your xylophones, you got your wood blocks, you got your quartal harmonies going on, all these things that Copland established, and that hadn't happened yet. But this is definitely in a very different vein than that. So yeah, it still really tracks as Eastern European to me. So that's the New World Symphony. That was not the piece that we were playing. We were playing another one that he called his American Suite. So same idea. He's trying to, give this feeling of being in America. The American Suite was written originally, I believe, just as a piano piece, and then it was later expanded to a full orchestral arrangement. And that's what we were playing. There is not a lot of percussion in it, so we were mostly bored. And when percussionists get bored, we start coming up with ideas. So we're sitting back there thinking, of course we're going to think, what could we do that could really spice this piece up? It could use a little bit of this, it could use a little bit of that. And then the discussion goes to, the first movement of that, it'd make a nice little jazz head. You could swing that and it would work. And so of course my brain goes to, could I turn that into an Exotica tune? And the answer to that question is always yes. So that's what happened. It started kind of it got into my head. I was like, I think I can do something with this. So I pulled it up, the music to the original piano version of it, just so I could take a look at what's happening in there. And it starts out with this descending melodic line, just 4 notes. And it keeps repeating them over and over. And it'll put little variations in between, but it's really just these 4 notes over and over and over and over and over again, going into these little excursions from there. And that, to me, a 4-note melodic riff, there's your bass line, right? We're looking at Exotica music tends to have these ostinato static bass lines. That 4-note riff, you can just run that over and over and over on a bass, and there's your whole tune. Throw a Wiro and some bird calls on top of that, and it's an exotic tune. So I went in and I did it, and it ended up being very short. I did just the first movement of it. I had to cut a couple bars out because he does some weird phrasings where he's got some uneven number of bars. So I cut a couple things out and I threw it into a different key so it fit on the vibes better. It's on Instagram, so you can check it out if you want to. But it's a cool tune. It just kind of put me in that mindset of, somebody trying. In this case, he was trying to give a sense of a definite place. And to me, as gorgeous as his music is, he really just missed the mark with that. It doesn't give America. And again, it's 200 years later, 150, 100 and some years. But yeah, it's a long time later, and we've done a lot since then. I hear it, and it's still, to me, comes across as Eastern European. So maybe somewhere in the middle, you hit the Caribbean, and we'll call it Exotica music. So that's my little take on Dvořák and his exotification of his music. And American Suite, first movement, falls right in there. It makes a great Exotica tune. And honestly, the Ninth Symphony as well, the main melody of that's been going through my head ever since then too. So that's probably going to be my next endeavor, is just to throw that in as an Exotica version as well, because I think it fits perfectly. So be on the lookout for that. I'll throw it up on YouTube when I get it done. The other one is so short, I think I just popped it on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, and it's on there. Yeah, that was just a little thought I had, and I wanted to share it with you, because that's what we do here at the Exotica Lounge. So I will see you again next time. Aloha, everybody. Mahalo. And we'll check you out next time. Thanks so much.